It is midday. Welcome to Hillside 94.1 FM, Auchi Polytechnic Radio. Here is the news on the hour. First, the headlines. Management mourns Oshubuge. Agbadua is Deputy Rector. Eshose FI Mrs. made AG Registrar. Auchi Poly to introduce new academic department. Rector constitutes committees. I am Zuleihat Bello. Now, the news in full. The rector of the Polytechnic, Dr. Shehu Umar, has described the death of the former Polytechnic Public Relations Officer, Mustapha Oshubuge, as a loss to the Polytechnic community. Late Oshubuge attended government primary school in Iruwa, Ogwashi Uku, and Auchi. He attended St. Paul Anglican Grammar School, Igara, and subsequently attended Government College, Ugeli, for his higher school certificate. He graduated from the University of Lagos in 1980, where he studied mass communication. He began his image-making career with the then Benden Ministry of Information as an information officer, also with the Benden Brewery as public relations officer before joining the Auchi as lecturer, they said, in 1984. In need of an information and public relations officer, the Polytechnic seconded Mustafa to establish a viable and functional public relations unit in 1991. In 1992, he became Principal Public Relations Officer, Assistant Chief Public Relations Officer in 1995, and Chief Public Relations Officer in 1998. He was a member of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Fellow, Nigerian Institute of Corporate Administrators. Mustafa, aged 64, died after a protracted illness and has been buried according to Islamic injunctions. The Governing Council has approved the appointment of Dr. Bamidele Oyakurome Agbadua as the Deputy Rector. Agbadua is a Chief Lecturer and he holds the Doctorate degree in Banking and Finance of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. In addition, he has a postgraduate diploma in education from Usman Dan Fodio University, Sokoto, in affiliation with National Teachers Institute. He joined the services of the Polytechnic in 1999 and has held significant positions of responsibility, such as two-term dean, School of Business Studies, Pioneer Head, Department of Banking and Finance, Assistant Director, Linkages and Partnership, Center for Research Innovation and Development and Coordinator, Guidance and Counseling, Center for Gender Studies. He is a Fellow, Chatham Institute of Banking of Nigeria, Fellow Institute of Corporate Administration, and Associate Chatham Stockbrokers. The Governing Council has approved the appointment of Mrs. F.I. Eshose as the acting registrar. The appointment took effect from July 14, 2022. Till her appointment as the AG registrar, Mrs. Eshose was the deputy registrar, Academics Affairs Division. The rector, Dr. Shehu Umar, has approved the appointment of Dr. Esabame George as the chairman of the reconstituted Senior Staff Disciplinary Committee, SSDC, of the Polytechnic. Other members of the committee are Mr. Igadalo Godwin, Mr. Ewan Ewiwin, Dele Ben, Mr. Abdulkadiri Muhammad, Barrister Abu M.A., Dr. Mrs. Imonike Justina, Engineer Parker Iharo Fatima, Dr. Wago Helen, Barrister Ijoje Friday, Mrs. Udunwe Comfort, Barrister Muhammad Mutala, and Mr. Idris Yakubu as the secretary of the committee. In a related development, Pastor Ben Enwanwi has been appointed as the chairman of the Interreligious Prayer Committee of the community. Members of the committee include Pastor Odion Owese, Malam Suleiman Abdul Rauf, Malam Barrister Muhammad Mutala, Mr. Nnamdi Egwatu, and Mr. Osadolo Osas. The committee is to organize monthly interreligious prayer for the Polytechnic, any other special prayer session as may be necessary. The rector, Dr. Shehu Umar, has approved the appointment of Dr. Esebame George as the chairman of the reconstituted staff Disciplinary Committee (SSDC) of the Polytechnic. Other members of the committee are Mr. Idalo Godwin, Mr. Ewenwi, Dele Ben, Mr. Abdulkadir Muhammad, Barrister Abu M.A., Dr. Mrs. Imonike Justina, Engineer Parker Igalo Fatima, Dr. Uhuwago Helen, Barrister Idoje Friday, Mrs. Udunwe Comfort, Barrister Muhammad Mutala, and Mr. Idris Yakubu as the secretary of the committee. In a related development, Pastor Ben Ewimi has been appointed as the chairman of the Interreligious Prayer Committee of the Polytechnic. Members of the committee include Pastor Dio Owaise, Malam Suleiman Abdurrauf, Malam Barrister Muhammad Mutala, Mr. Nnamdi Egwatu, and Mr. Osadolo Osas. The committee is to organize monthly interreligious prayer for the Polytechnic, any other special prayer session as may be necessary. The management of the Polytechnic is set to introduce a new academic department. According to the rector, Dr. Shehu Umar, plans has been conducted to commence National Diploma (ND) program in Library and Information Sciences. While speaking at the National Conference of National Library Association (NLA) held in the Polytechnic, the rector disclosed that the department will take off in the 2022/2023 academic session. To end the news broadcast, a recap of the major stories. Management mourns Oshubuge. Agbaduwa is deputy rector. Eshose FI, Mrs. made acting registrar. Rector constitutes committees. Auchi Poly to introduce new academic departments. With that, we end the news broadcast, which came to you on Hillside 94.1 FM. The bulletin was edited by Mr. Peacemaker. I am Zuleihat Bello. Stay tuned for more updates at the top of the hour.